Коллеги, мы начинаем. Я представляю Джерарда Джорджа из Imperial колледжа, который является заместителем главы Центра по инновациям и предпринимательству бизнес-школы. И сегодня расскажет на тему про low-cost innovation. Thank you for coming.
I didn't understand anything of what he said, so I'm
I
hoping he
just
said something.
told that you're deputy head of Innovation and Entrepreneurship Center in Imperial College London.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. Do we really need this mic?
Yes, for translation.
For translation. Okay, very good. Let me tell you a little bit about what I do, and then you can tell me a little bit about yourself. Right? So, apart from being deputy head of the Innovation Entrepreneurship Group, I help Imperial College with all their India efforts. Some of the other projects that I do are on with UNAIDS on redesigning how they do treatment programs. Then I also work with rural electrification in Kenya on how can you find out different business models that work for in rural electrification. Right? So does that make sense to you? Yes? No? Did you hear what I said? Yes. Okay. Can you tell me what I said? It's not me. Okay? So I'm going to ask you to tell me what I said and what you understood from what I said.
You work in Kenya, where you deal with energy electrification.
Yeah, and before that. That's good. That's one. Okay.
You worked in Imperial College London?
Yes, that's what he said. Yes. Good. So the reason why I asked this is so that I'd calibrate how fast I should talk. So now I should talk very slowly then. No?
Very, but slower.
Slower. Okay, good. I want to know what brings you here. What is your interest? How many of you have traveled in developing countries? In Africa? How many of you have gone to Africa? Egypt? Okay, close.
Turkey,
Yeah, Turkey? Okay. That's not it. Yes. Where else? Any of you
Do you
traveled?
consider Russia to be a developing country?
Yes, other than Russia. Russia is supposed to be already developed, right? And in Egypt and right, that's it. Istanbul, good. Turkey. The gentleman in the white T-shirt there. You okay? You thinking about something else? Lunch? Dinner? No? Okay. Tell me about something about yourself.
I studied in Moscow Physics and Engineering Institute.
Good.
I like to know about journalism around the field.
That's very good. What's your name?
Boris.
Boris. Oh, very good. Good. What do you do? No, that's very good. What you're doing now is okay. Are you a student in engineering, physics?
I am IT professional.
IT. Okay, very good. How about you?
I'm studying Moscow Engineering Physics Institute.
Uh-huh.
Specialization is microelectronics.
Microelectronics, very good. Are you a smart cookie? Yeah. A smart? Are you? Do you have doubts on the smart or the cookie? Good. You are?
Sorry, my English is not good.
No, it's good. We'll get you much more relaxed. Yes. You're getting translation service, yeah? Okay. Your background?
My name is Alexander. I work in Russian University for Knowledge Technology and Business, and my interests are in innovation management and science management.
Oh, fantastic. So that's my area as well. Yeah.
So that's why I'm here.
Oh, excellent. Good, good. Okay. Okay. Very good. Very good. Yeah. So what I studied, my first graduate degree was in genetics. Right. And then I worked a little bit working on the life sciences side, and I figured that was not my interest. Then I joined AT&T, and then afterwards I went off to the US, and there I studied management. And in the process, over the years, I've helped start several companies, and that's why I'm more interested in entrepreneurship. And so that's how I became an entrepreneurship professor. So in the US, I was there, in Virginia, then in New York, then in Wisconsin, in a place called University of Wisconsin-Madison. Then I moved to London to a place called London Business School, which is in the business school. And then I moved to Imperial to head up all our India things. So that's my little bit of my background. So afterwards, I'll ask you. Okay? All right. What's your background?
My name is Mark. I'm a student of Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology. Well, now I'm going to lead some scientific work in the sphere of optics, and so I think that innovative managers will be interested in me.
Good. Very good. Very good. And optics, all exciting fields. Yeah. I didn't ask you. What's your name? Your background?
I'm Dina. I'm implementing the systems engineering in Russia.
Systems engineering. So what's interesting about what I'm going to tell today? Why are you here? Other than because Andre said you should come.
Because I'm interested in topic of innovation.
Okay.
And I know that in our country, low-cost innovation exists. And I wonder how it is in other countries.
Okay. Very good. Very good. So we'll do some of that. So I want to. The two people at the back, you're very quiet. No? Huh?
I'm a physicist. My name is Kirill. I'm a physicist from Moscow State University.
Oh,
And
excellent.
also I'm CTO of small private venture fund Horizon Technologies.
Very good. Very good. How about you?
I'm an economist.
You're an economist. In Moscow State University? No?
I work for International Innovation Center
Okay.
in sphere of biotechnology and also agriculture.
Okay. Very good. Very good. So I usually teach executives, senior executives, meaning they run their own big businesses. So I usually teach in those courses. So for me, teaching younger people is a very, very exciting for me. If you can understand what I said, then that is very good. If I go through 2 hours or 3 hours of lecture and you haven't understood anything, then that's a problem. All right. If we were to go and start thinking about what are some of the problems in this world, right? I'm going to give you a small exercise. I'm going to break you into groups, of 3, or I leave the 2 of you by yourself, 3, 3, and 3 of you. Okay? I want you to come up with problems of the world, big problems, big agenda problems, but I want you to take one problem and then say, what could be done in terms of innovation to address that one problem? So what do you think would be some of the problems in this world? Hunger, well, is a big problem, right? What else? Pure water, absolutely.
Fossil fuels.
Fossil fuels, the diminishing of fossil fuels, or the, yes, okay, good, all right. Poor countries, yes. That they are poor, or to improve that they should become better? They should become better, yes. So you've got these big ticket items. I want you to think of one innovation that you think can be done. One, just one, okay? That fellow is very quiet. I'm afraid he's going to die on me.
What do you mean by innovation?
One innovation, one product, one service, one new idea you think would solve one of your grand problems, okay? I'm going to ask you also, so just one. I want you to come up with one. You've already got yours? Much? 5 minutes. We can solve the world's problem one at a time in 5 minutes, can't we? No? You can join them. You can move these chairs around, can't you? Yeah. Make yourself flexible. It's okay. You should innovate. 3. So just move it. Move your chairs around if you have to. Just make yourself very relaxed. All right. Let's put the major problems that you've come up with, okay? Let's start, and then I'll give you one problem to solve, okay? So let's put major problems up. What are the problems? What about energy? What is the problem?
Alternative energy, or energy in green energy.
Okay? The supply of energy. Why is that a problem?
We must find some energy, green energy.
Okay.
Nowadays, many variants in this way.
Okay. All right. So one big problem is the need for energy, and part of that is green energy in that, right? All right. Let's come up with your group. Do you have at least one problem? If you have more than one problem, that's good. Okay. Right. So.
Natural resources, less wars about oil and coal, and the energy is too expensive. Yes, if we had cheap energy, we can solve the problem of poverty. Yes.
Right.
It's one of the most, I think, most important and most common problem.
Okay.
And many other problems can
Okay.
be solved if we solve them.
So the big point that you're making is the energy is the largest or biggest predictor of productivity or growth. So therefore, to remove poverty, you have to have a cheaper supply of energy, right?
Not that, but that.
That too.
Yeah, that too, but not. It is not one predicate.
Okay.
There are many predicates.
Okay. So let's take East Africa, for example. Let's have a guessing game. If you're in East Africa Africa, East Africa, right? If you're not in a city, what percentage of houses have access to electricity? If you're not in a city,
10% maybe maximum.
0 is a very small number. 5%. 5%. Right? So if you're living outside of a town in East Africa, only 1 in 20 households can have access to electricity. Right? So we complain about a bigger problem saying, oh, the AC is not on or this kind of thing. But in terms of perspective, that's a very different perspective. All right, so we have one problem so far. My dream team, yes?
Life science.
Life sciences. Life sciences for what? What is a problem?
Human health.
Health. Good. Can you give me some number that would say that health is a problem?
Cancer, and the first biggest problem.
Okay.
And maybe disease, different disease. And antibiotic resistance.
Okay.
Antibiotic resistance, the biggest problem.
Right. But one is you're talking about antibiotic resistance, which is a developed country problem, versus the availability of antibiotics itself, which is 90% of the world's problem.
Yeah. So if we move to discover new antibiotics, it's maybe very bad because maybe we can change our way and see to bacterial facts.
Right. Okay. Very good. So that's one. What else? Your team. Water. Excellent. In poor countries. Access to water. What do you think? Make up a number. What are you talking about?
About our opinion in the area of alternative energy.
Okay. All right.
It's about how you should.
Give me a number. How many people in this world do you think don't have access to running water?
I think more than
60%. No. Very close. 1.7 billion people. Very close. Right? So if you look at that, that is a big problem. Now you've got 3 different problems. I want for each of these, I want you to think of 10 innovations that you think would help. Not just in the developed country context, but in developing, right? So don't just think, I'm happy in Moscow, I'll think about problems of Moscow. Think about maybe the remaining 5 or 6 billion people who don't have access to water, health, any of those things, right?
I got a question.
Yes.
Do we have to think about existing innovations that don't work, or do we have to invent 10 things that will help to...
This is a creativity exercise.
Okay.
You can make up anything.
Okay.
Just imagine that you can make stuff up. If you can make stuff up that doesn't exist, be very creative. I want 10 creative ideas in each of these. 10. It can be funny, it can be anything. It can be very creative. Go crazy.
Teleportation.
Close enough. How will it help poor people? That you have to understand also. Right? Yes. That becomes very creative. But think of possible. It could be done, possibly, right? Think of, at least it is in the realm of possibility that you can think of 10 creative ideas. I want 10, okay? New groups again, you can form different groups or you can have the same group, whichever works for you. But I want 10. You're in water. 10 ideas to solve water. 10 in energy, 10, and you'll give me 10 in health. 10 creative ideas. No, energy. Only 10 in your, what you picked. Yeah. 10 ideas. Like, one idea, for example, in energy could be cheap electric cars. Right? Cheap electric cars. Give me 10 like that. Are you cheating for answers? He's looking up 10 energy innovations in energy. Go. All right. Good. Let's start with water. What ideas do you have?
Okay, we don't have 10 yet.
Yeah?
We have several great ideas.
Oh, very good. Very good.
Okay, the first
Let's listen. Come on, boys. Let's listen. Okay, he's talking. Let's listen to it. Okay. It's okay if you don't have 10. We'll come to that. Yeah.
Okay, there are several approaches to getting water.
Yeah?
The first approach is by cleaning the existing dirty water.
Perfect.
So that's the idea of making several filters or something like that. Then
So one is filters, isn't it?
yes,
Okay.
it's about closed cycle and etc.
Right.
Second idea is about generating water out of existing hydrogen and oxygen in the air.
Right.
That's the idea.
Right.
Then
Right. So making what you think this is not possible, but lots of people are working on it.
we have been discussing some difficulties of making such machine, but we don't think it's impossible.
Good. Okay. So sort of manufacturing from air, right? Okay.
The next idea is by removing salt from the seawater.
Perfect.
That's already existing
Right.
technology, but we can improve it.
Right.
The next idea is biological one. We want to introduce some genetically modified organisms, so a crocodile who will cry water instead of tears.
Okay. So the difficulty there is in collecting those tears.
Yes, but there can be done several places or boxes for crocodiles to cry.
Yeah.
They will be shown meat and they will cry because they can't eat it. So that's not a problem.
But the principle that you have is an interesting one. What if you can create GMO, introduce genetically modified organisms, that actually create water as a byproduct? So where do you think this could be applied? For example, in algae. Do you know what is green? It's sort of no? Sometimes it grows on trees.
Okay, I get the idea.
The green color thing, right?
Yes.
Slippery if
Yeah,
it's, and you'll slip and fall on it if you leave water standing too long, right? So there are experiments that modify this
Yes,
to
yes,
create
you're
more water. So your principle is right.
Yes, that's the
Crocodile tears though is a difficult one to buy. Then
being Russians, we couldn't help mentioning such idea of making a pipeline to support the whole world with pure Russian water. We
In
can
Africa.
support,
in Africa,
yes, we can support
right?
Africa with Baikal water or something like that. We can make it a pipeline through the whole Siberia.
Right.
It's not a problem.
Right? So there, again, the principle is a nice idea. The principle is, can you have a low-cost way of increasing supply,
Yes.
right?
Then an idea of engine. You know, there are hydrogen engines, and they have water as a byproduct of burning oxygen and hydrogen.
Perfect.
So that's the idea of solving two problems in one time, of making water and supplying people with energy.
Right. Perfect.
And oh yes, that's an idea of using the water which condensates in the morning. So if you have great contrast of temperature in night and day, there is a lot of water to condensate in the morning. So
Perfect.
if we can just collect it in a proper way and in a proper scale, that can be used to supply water.
Perfect.
Thank you.
That,
That's it.
that I think somehow you need a prize for this group, but it's very good. All right, we'll come up with your ideas.
First, we can use energy of
You can use energy less. What did you say?
energy of
Earth. Ah, right. Okay, geothermal.
yes.
Okay, very good.
Second, cheap sun battery.
Cheap
Sun battery.
sun, solar.
Sun solar.
Right. That's very good.
Lossless electrical wires.
Wires. What about it?
Superconducting wires.
Ah, superconducting wires. So with no energy loss, is it? Is it? Ah, very good. Very good. So no what you'd call distribution loss wires. Perfect. That's a very good idea.
Energy from garbage. Sun.
Some, yeah, but that's going on now, right?
We can use mechanic energy by piezo effect.
Piezo effect. Physics. Is that
Yes.
okay? Right?
And some kind of mechanic energy, the personal energy from a bicycle maybe, or
Yes. So capturing physical energy that you expend, and somehow be able to put it in a battery which you can use later, right? Absolutely. Do you think it's being done now?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. A lot of places in Africa have those things. Okay. Let's come up with your ideas.
The first is the nuclear energy, which can be done maybe with magnetic field.
Ah, very good. But in a small scale?
No, not small, but a normal, huge thermonuclear station, wires, electromobiles, yes.
Right. Okay. But that is already part of what we have, no?
Thermonuclear,
Yeah.
where
How else would you have it? Yeah.
where else? We can less
Air pollution.
But air pollution, we can use its cheap energy to to power cars, electric cars.
Uh-huh.
So we can have very cheap automobiles
Okay.
and less the pollution of the air.
So what you're saying are different supply innovations, right? Different types of energy supply,
Yes.
right?
Supply. But it will be very good if people will invent thermonuclear reactor. Yes.
Right.
I think they are close to it.
Okay. So now think about it this way. Instead of having a massive, big-ass station, what if we have it in a pocket size? Oh, it'll be even better, no?
It's even better, yes, but it's more complex to invent.
Oh, if we're not doing it in a big size, why would you think? Why not think about it in a small size? Right? Yeah.
Maybe yes.
Yeah.
Small
So
size
the
is better, yes.
yes.
But
So each village has one. So you don't have to have the losses from distribution.
yes, but thermonuclear reaction requires some kind of complex
Reaction.
conditions.
Right.
Yes, I think it's more complex to have it in a small size. But
From what we know now.
yes.
Good. All right. Few more. Good.
Sun generators on the desert. We
Sun. Yes, that we have.
huge lands of desert, and there are huge sun, huge temperature. Why not to use them to put mass of sun generators?
Right.
Mass and
It's called concentrated solar thermal.
yes, and
Right.
and to wire them to the maybe African village.
Correct. Yeah. So here's the problem in this argument. The places that actually need the energy or use the energy are in the developed countries. Actually, the places that get the most sun don't actually use as much. So I live in England, right? London, probably in a year, you have 10 days of sun.
Yes, this problem is local. For Africa, India, maybe Australia deserts.
Yeah.
To put a mass of sun generators there and to wire them to the land, to the cities. It's cheap, it's no cost, and so
Okay.
it will be
So-
very.
Let's push that a bit. What are the problems if I put all the solar panels in Africa, in the deserts of Africa? What are the biggest problems?
I don't see any problem.
Transmission. Right? The transmission, yes. The transmission. What is a transmission loss? You're engineering folks. What is transmission loss?
Yes.
Not so big problem.
Right? Do you know what an average transmission loss is in our existing generation system? Not if I generate 1 kilowatt, how much actually reaches the end user?
1 kilowatt in electricity. How much loss? 1.5% in Europe. In Russia, 50%. In the United States, it depends from state, but somewhere 3 to 5%.
It goes anywhere from about 5 to about 40.
Now, if you're talking about electricity, generate 1 kilowatt and transmit to end user.
Yes.
Your loss
The transmission and distribution losses.
It's not because it not you don't have mutual understanding. If I generated 1 kilowatt electricity on the power plant and moved to end user in Europe, I'm losses 1.5%. But if I calculate all source of energy, and I lose 70% is losses.
70.
It's a very big problem.
Yeah.
Like a car.
That is a problem, yes, but the energy is free.
I know, we're not paying for the sun, not as yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's free. So we lost 50, 70%, but other 30% is free.
Right? Okay. You wanted to say some?
Initial. I have more.
You have how many more do you have?
5.
Oh, then you have to say it quickly.
Yes. The third is a natural fuel from something that some organics that can be grown with any extreme complex conditions.
Okay.
Some plants maybe that can produce mass of organics, and that we have the organics, we put them to the production, and we have a mass of very cheap fuel.
Right.
Some I don't know what plant is that can be used.
Right now they're using something called jatropha. It's jatropha is the name of a plant.
Yes.
Right, so then they take the oil from that and then use that as biodiesel.
Mass
Right?
product, some complex condition that grow and we put and we have a cheap oil. Yes.
True,
Yes.
true.
The fourth, the energy from the Earth's spinning, Earth spinning.
Yes.
Our Earth is spinning, and so I heard that there is
There are ways to do that.
solution. Yes.
Yeah.
Earth spinning, magnetic field spinning, another, and the last is wind electric stations on the mountains. There are mass of wind, and there to those lands we have mass wind.
Okay, right, makes sense.
Like some generators on the list.
Correct.
We put them, we wire them, and it works.
Right. It works there. It's about getting that energy actually to the actual user.
Yes, but it's free.
It's free.
We
True.
put, and it works.
Yes, I want to give him a last chance. Yeah.
Some of solutions
Uh-huh.
will say by my colleague,
Uh-huh.
and I can add using garbage, reaching very clear fields, garbage,
Right.
and energy of cosmic particles, and
Very good.
wireless transmission energy from electromagnetic field of our planet. It may be
Right.
satellite which
Right. Yes.
um,
That's very similar.
and watch for new sources, maybe hardly reachable places, maybe discovered other planets.
So you're looking for new sources of energy.
Yes, yes. And at last, work at area of new physics principles which can rotate our mind about sources of energy.
Right.
It is fine.
It's still working on it. All right. So you've got all these different ways of looking at it. But predominantly, if you want to start thinking about solving the world's problems, it has to be really cheap. Right? You can't have expensive solutions for what are very simple but very difficult problems. So this is a presentation I've got. We're working on a book together. Paul Thompson is the rector. Do you know who a rector is? For a vice chancellor, like for a university, or the Royal College of Art. And Ani is a graduate of Royal College of Art, but now he started his own company, and we'll talk about his company as well as we go along. So it's simply be cheap. That's it. When we talk about being cheap, is that a good thing? Usually your girlfriend tells you, that's really cheap of you. That's not a good thing. But in this case, being cheap means how do we figure out low-cost ways of solving some of the problems. The presentation has few words, but lots of pictures. Right? So I want you to keep talking about what you think and how you think of these issues. Here are some simple numbers. It's what we talked about. In the US, right, there are 700,000 people without shelter on a night. This is, you would think about the most developed country in terms of cash availability and debt and everything else. Even in that context, you then see how many people don't have shelter for the night. Right? There are 1.7 billion people without access to clean water. Right? If you think of China and building in terms of net migration within China, I don't think the number is here. In China, moving from village to the city, they have a big problem of migration issues. Now, if their net migration continues, people moving from the village to the city, the number that will increase in cities is about 300 million people. Right? To make housing for 300 million people, if you use the same bricks, type of sand and so forth, you have to take the entire topsoil of China and it still won't be enough. Now think about it. If I have to build houses for people who are moving to the city, and if I use the same traditional ways of building that I have done for the past 50, 100 years, then I need my entire topsoil for the entire, China is not a small country, it's a big country. Right? The entire topsoil of the country to make that many houses. So what would be the obvious question that we should ask ourselves? We have to have innovations which are extremely low cost, that doesn't deplete our natural resources. Does that make sense? Yeah? Now, this is on a yearly basis, if you look at it, 25 million people are displaced, either for wars, for something or the other, floods, calamities, 25 million people. Now, if you think of 25 million people as a mobile population, then you start asking the question, how do I create, what would be the questions that I would ask you? What would the types of innovations that you'll come up with? Let's say there are 25 million people homeless every year because of calamity, like a war or a, floods. What would become the biggest problem for you? Providing housing, right? Temporary housing. Temporary housing, which is super low cost and easy to do. Correct? So the first, what I'm going to give you are 5 principles of thinking about it. Right? And this is as much an exercise in thinking about it than it is about saying, oh, this is the way to do it. So I'm going to give 5 ways to think about it. The first one is grand challenge. What is a grand challenge? What is a challenge? Grand challenge. What is a grand challenge?
Big problem.
Big problem, right? Yeah. World hunger is a grand challenge. Right? But thinking about grand challenges and then saying, here are ways to address that would be the first way of thinking about it. Right? The first principle behind grand challenge is to say, let me radically do something to address a radical and a difficult problem, or a pervasive and a difficult problem. What does this tell you? It's beautiful, isn't it? It's a laptop. It's a Bentley laptop. Do you know how much it costs? No, it's not like that. They make it to sell it. $20,000. $20,000? How much is that? It's about, huh? No, 500,000 rubles. Yeah. So 500,000 rubles for the laptop. It's not too bad. It's one way of looking at it. Right? This is the one laptop per child project. You know how much that laptop costs?
$10.
100.
$100, right? Well, that's the goal. It came slightly less. Some get it slightly more, but around that. It's a $100 laptop. Right? The Aston Martin releases Signet this year. It's a nice car. What is their principle for the car? It's a challenge for everyday driving, for urban commutes. How much is that car? 30,000 pounds. 30,000 pounds is about 1.3 million rubles. Right? It's not very expensive. It is very expensive, not very expensive. Okay. The Tata Nano, for the same principle of urban commute. Well, it's about $4,000. Yes, they said $2,000, but once you put it outside and everything else, it became. Now they're trying to sell it in Europe for $4,000 because they have to make adjustments for the cost of complying to European laws, right? But what is the grand challenge thinking here? I've given you 4 examples: the Signet, this one, the laptop. What is the grand challenge here? But the laptop is an innovation, is an instrument. What is the challenge?
Global education.
Education for all, right? The access to education. This one, the principle. What is the principle here?
Access to movement.
Mobility.
Mobility.
Correct. Mobility. Mobility in urban environments. Affordable mobility. So if it's $4,000, in India it's $2,200. Right? This is $2,200 is what you pay when you go to the storeroom and collect it, plus taxes, maybe $2,500. Right? Compare $2,500 to $50,000. Same principle, but very different approach to how you solve it. Right? So the first way of thinking is grand challenge. Is to start thinking, what is the challenge principle in this, in terms of me making a radical solution? Right? And within that, there are a few issues that when we look at all these contrasting types of innovations, the first one is inspire with purpose. Right? Make sure that there is a purpose behind what you're thinking of or what you're doing, right? And how it addresses a grand challenge. For the Tata Nano to produce a car that is sold for $2,500, what do you have to do in the system? You have to reconfigure the entire system to make things cheap, to supply it cheap, right? To assemble it cheap, to distribute it cheap. So an existing structure, existing value chain or supply chain is not able to deliver this cheap, right? If you go to one of your storerooms here and get a car, do you think you can buy a car for $2,500? Probably not. It is probably the margin, the profit margin that one of the storeroom fellows do is about $3,000, $4,000. That's the profit of who? Only the retailer. So think about the steps that a car has to go through before you can get it to market. Think about, so this is assembly. So you actually put a car together. That's my drive. Okay? But then before this, you've got the wheels, you've got the whatever, then you've got lots of pieces, right? So to make this, the body, then those guys have to get bars of steel, right? What else do they have to do? Paint, rubber, lots of things. All the inputs that goes into assembly, and then you have the assembly bit itself. Then you've got to, once you've got it assembled, you have to have a distributor, right? The distributor then sends it to a retailer, right? So this is your corner store, corner shop, meaning this corner, that corner, whichever corner, right? So this is the fellow. Now, if you have to have a profit to figure out of the total amount is $2,500 is what the customer pays, then work backwards to how much it should to cost for this, right? How much percentage would a retailer want to sell something?
10%.
What is the average, if you go to a store, what is the average that you would expect as a profit margin that a retailer would make? What do you think?
30.
It's about 50. Right? Well, how do you think they have these sales? Right? The sale is so that they reduce their profit margin. Right? So that means here it should be $1,250. Let's say you reduce this and you'd say, no, it's not going to be $1,250, it's going to be $2,000. Okay? From then, this fellow has to make money, right? So what do you think this fellow is going to make? Another $200, $300? If this fellow makes 500, then this fellow will make about 200 something. So $1,800. So to make an entire car is $1,800. Now let's start putting pieces of it out. How much do you think the body would cost if the total car costs is $1,800? So this fellow has to make a profit. He has to make at least a 20% profit. So 1,800, take out the profit. So the cost of the car has to be at least 1,500. Right? So if that is the cost of the car, then start thinking about all the pieces that go into it. So this one, the entire chassis body of it should be between $300 and $400. Now to do some kind of thinking like that, that's a complete overhaul of how you manufacture, isn't it? Correct? No? So a big thing here is to start asking, let's design an entirely new system to deliver an innovation which is like this. The next one is rethinking the object. When I say rethink the object, what does it mean? Right?
Maybe you must look at this problem from another side.
Correct. Taking a different perspective on the same problem, right? Yes. Or thinking about what the user experience is. To say, if I'm doing something, then how can why do people do what they do? If mobility is the bigger question, moving from one point to the other, are there different ways of doing the same thing? Here's a helmet. It's by POC, and this helmet costs $180. $180 is what? 5,000 rubles, around that? Yeah, around 5,000 rupees for a helmet. Do you know how much this one is?
And $1, $3.
150 rupees. Right? So here a helmet that is sold for 150 rupees, but actually the performance of this helmet, made out of cardboard and with a plastic thing, right, passes all stringency tests for crash helmets. So what is interesting about this is for $3 you can rethink the helmet itself and say, why do you actually have that helmet? Have interesting design pieces to it, and it's fully biodegradable. What does that mean? It means the helmet has become a disposable helmet. Why would you need a disposable helmet? Who will need disposable? Huh? Kamikazes. No, then you don't need a helmet.
They might be spared.
Why would you need a disposable helmet? Who? Sportsmen possibly, yeah? Disposable. Do you know what disposable you're translating? Use, throw. Use a helmet once and throw it. So, right? When would you use, what is a disposable helmet for? Think of, in London, we have about 6 million tourists every year. Something like that. At any given point or something, some number like that. Lots of tourists. And we have these bicycles where you can rent from one place and go put it in the other and just go around. So if you have 6 million tourists, you don't want to ride a bicycle without a helmet. Right? And they're going to use it one day. So they're not going to buy a helmet for 40 pounds. Instead, they'll buy a helmet for 3 pounds. And imagine 6 million people buying helmets and then throwing it away because it's not useful. That creates a whole different rubbish problem, no? Garbage problem. Fully biodegradable. Rethinking. Pure water. Brita filter. Yeah, you've got this. Yes? Good. Life straw. Life straw is about functionality. It's about rethinking what the object itself is. Less than $1. Right? So you can use this in running streams and whatever without thinking about, oh, the water is, you get water purity in it completely as you want. Let's see if this works. What do you think?
Was acid.
Clever. Huh?
Acid.
Which?
Acid.
No?
Sulfuric acid.
No. Water. What do you think? Nice idea? Yeah? Why is it a nice idea?
Less rubbish.
Less rubbish, right? So somehow we think about producing rubbish, it goes somewhere, right? Where does it go? It goes in the landfills. So the average landfill, that areas in landfill, is what do you think? 15 million square kilometers. That's a lot, right? If you start thinking about how do you start, and this is 190 tons is only for Puma, right? The shoemaker. So it's a grand challenge. So let's think about this in terms of what these fellows did. What was so special about why Puma did this? One, they did it very cleverly, didn't they? In terms of product positioning. What was clever at what they did? Why was it clever? Huh? Yeah, but also how they did the marketing. Right? Just think about how very very easily they did the marketing for it. They position themselves. It's not just about doing good for the world, right? That's there. But once you saw the ads, then you thought, that's nice, isn't it? It's about making people feel good about the product they buy while doing good somewhere else, right? But just in terms of positioning the product. The other one is perception. You want to disrupt how people see it, perceive it. Do you understand what that means? Disrupt. You want to break them away from a mentality. Right? What is a mentality? The mentality is plastic bag I'll get, and then I'll bin it, I'll rubbish it, and so forth. But now what happens? Now you get the plastic bag, you put the water, you dissolve it, and you feel engaged in the process. No? So, if I ask you, why is Google, you know what we'd say when we call things sticky? How much time do you spend on Facebook?
Not so much.
What is so much?
I think 40 minutes
In a day, how many times do you look at Facebook? Yeah. 20?
I don't know. Sometimes I don't open Facebook all day. Sometimes open.
Okay. So, how much time? He's not giving me an answer.
I think 5.
5 times. In total, each time you open Facebook, you spend about 5 minutes. That means you're spending about 25 minutes on Facebook. In Google, how much time do you spend on Google? 3 times. Yeah. But how long do you spend on Google?
2 minutes maybe.
Right. So the thing about Google is efficient information processing, but the customer is not sticky, meaning they don't spend so much time on their site. In Puma's case, when they made it sticky, it's not like I'm going to stick with you, but when the experience is they're spending more time with the product, right? They're engaging more with the product. And so it's the experience, the shopping experience for the person is not just about buying right? I go into a shop, I buy the shirt, I put it in the bag, I go home, I take the shirt, I enjoy it, nice, it's good, try it on. Then I take the bag, and then I spend as much time in terms of in about 10-15 minutes, right? So I'm thinking about Puma all this while, and I'm thinking, oh, they are pretty smart guys, right? Oh, they're doing really good. So the experience itself is completely changed. So you have to start thinking, if I have a grand challenge, how do I rethink the object itself? Rethink the experience.
How do people make this with their bags? Lots of people are lazy.
So you can just throw it and still it'll be biodegradable, no?
But they don't spend their time.
Possibly, but a lot of people will. Right? You don't have to dissolve it in hot water and so forth. If you put it in compost, it will still dissolve. It's 100% biodegradable, right? But they make it into that so that you feel that you're, oh, I'm doing cornstarch, I'm blending it out, and then I'm throwing it. So cute, right? Life cycle cost thinking. So we've done two so far. Can you tell me the two that we've done so far? What is the first one? Grand challenge thinking. The second one? Rethink the object, right? All right. Third one is life cycle cost thinking. What is life cycle cost? What does it mean? Right. So the cost from idea to production to this, and then to disposal, right? Have you seen this? Have you heard of Paul Smith? Yeah. Paul Smith is a very fancy British designer. His clothes usually have pinstripes of lots of different colors, right? And it's a messenger bag, nice, very functional, very beautiful. Yeah, a little over 1,000 pounds, but very nice, very pretty. Freytag is a bag that's made out of recycled containers. So, for example, if you go to their website, what you can do is you can look at, you can make your own bag. How? By taking pieces of sheets, like the poster board and container sheets that they have, you can cut out which piece that you want for your bag. So you can design it based on your experience. Maybe what I'll do is I'll take you to the site and walk you through it. Right? So we'll make our own bag. One second. Yeah. I don't have internet. Do you have internet on this? Is that one? No. Here, this one here.
Где интернет закончится. Очень классный язык.
Там, кстати, тут посмотреть.
Я веял с механикой, я не хочу закончить.
Еще раз запрягать.
Я смотрелся, что такое.
All right, so let's make our own bags, okay? So now I'm going to say online shop. I want to make a messenger bag. I want to do a top cat, okay? And then I want to do, let's say that, right? I think there's a thing here somehow of making it. These are crazy people. It's a bit gross. but that's okay. So, but how do you make it? You can go to the store and make it yourself. So, if I'm the Russian version doesn't allow me to make it, but in the UK version, I can go and make my own piece, right? I will see where did I leave? I will see this red thing is why you.
Oh, you have forgotten to add losers.
No, that's not true. So these are tarpaulin, right? And these are big container tarpaulin. So after they use it, they throw it off, right? Instead of throwing it off, then these people bought everything for no money, essentially. And then you can go to the designer page and then say, this front flap I want from this piece of tarpaulin, right? So then I can take, it'll be whatever, say Russian whatever thing, or you could have different types of tarps and color patterns that you can make yourself. So think about this as life cycle cost. What is a life cycle cost principle here? Huh? It is a second life or second use, and they've created it into a high-end product. Right? It costs them nothing to make. Right? Most spending that they do is probably on the website. Because you design your own bag, they just pull used tarps, meaning so people actually probably pay them to take it away for them because it's disposal for them. So they get it free. You design the product, and then they have a manufacturer make it, and then it's shipped to you. Right? That's it. Nokia. Right? This is the timeline for Nokia. You look at 1982, the number of cell phone variety and all those things. By now, it has 500 plus handsets each year in terms of products. Right? How many of you have an Apple iPhone? You've got one. I have one somewhere in my jacket. Right? But if the iPhone, if you pay how much, I don't know how much you pay for it, but 500 pounds or 400 pounds, whatever you pay first time, right? And then if it breaks, you can go replace the iPhone for 100 pounds.
right? Huh? Not in Russia, is it? I don't know, your world is very different from mine. So you can go and replace the phone for £100. Go to the same Apple store, no questions asked, they'll just replace it. Why? The cost of the phone itself is not that much. What you're replacing, the more important things, right? You've got what usually breaks is the top, right? The glass cracks or whatever, right? The remaining pieces are all recycled. So for Apple, actually, the cost is maybe 10, 20 pounds. But you, as a customer, feel, oh, £100 and I get a completely new phone. Why? Because they've designed the Apple iPhone in such a way that you can recycle pretty much everything in it. So Apple gets it back. In fact, you take the trouble of going to the store and giving it back to them. Right? They don't even come and collect it. You give it back to them. They replace the parts and charge you, they make 4 times the profit, and still you feel good about it. So thinking about low-cost thinking here is also about recovering costs, recovering what. So when you talk about life cycle of a product, it's about not just in the product cost itself, but then coming back and then saying, how do I make money off of recovering the costs associated with it? So here they've got a nice business model. What is their business model here? Their business model. Do you know what a business model is? What is a business model? Yeah. Yeah. How you actually create the business in a way that how you generate revenues and how you manage the whole costs associated with it. So in this, it's about rethinking the entire business model. Not just about saying, okay, let me, once I sell the product, it's over. It's about how do I keep making money on that product, even at a much lower cost than how I started with. Reuse materials, then create customer perceptions of value. For me, for an Apple customer, I go and give the phone. For £100, I get a new phone, which I paid $500 earlier for. Right? So I think I've got a good deal. Right? So some people even go crazy. Right? They'll use it for 9 months, break it, then go back and give it to Apple, and then get a new phone. Right? That seems to work, right? Why wouldn't that be a problem? Huh?
The same service, I mean, not updating, not 4G, iPhone, just 3G,
Yes, it's the same. Why? You've got 3G or 4G, or what do you have here? Yes. So people do this. They think, oh, it's awesome. Apple, what does it say? I don't care. I'm going to make money anyways. You break it, you want a new phone, come and break it and give it. They don't, no questions asked. Right? After 9 months, people break their phone and say, oh, it fell down the stairs. Right? And they go give it back, give £100, get a new phone. In fact, what did Apple do? They made it even more interesting. All your contacts, everything is in the iTunes, right? So you just have to sync it once. So what you have to do is you connect the phone, it'll transfer all your data, everything, right? So all your contacts, everything is online. So there's zero cost. I can delete this, I can sync it, delete what is their content in this, go break it, go give the phone, get a new phone, then sync it back. So they've made it so easy for us to actually do it. It's not like they're stupid.
Yeah, but it's not work without this
Huh?
It's not work without this.
Yes, if you don't have it in Russia and you break the phone, you are stuck. Yes, but in the US, the UK, all these other places, you pay £100. I don't know what it is in the US. Maybe $150. You pay it and you get a new phone. No questions. So I'm going to have these 5 principles, and I'm going to ask you to take one idea and try to rework it. What's the next one? Specialize for scope. Now think about this. When we make products, we always think scale, economies of scale. What is economies of scale?
Make a lot of things to make each thing.
Cheaper, right? So the principle of economies of scale is you had a big production line, so the more you make, each unit becomes cheaper, right? But scope is different. Scope is making many things, right? So if you've got many products, then the logical thinking would say that you don't get benefits, right? This is the cardboard manufacturing, right? If you go to a cardboard, you know what cardboard? Cardboard. Yeah, you know cardboard, right? It's the same. Okay. You were giving me a very blank look. So, what?
Сейчас скажу народ. Картон.
Ah,
Some people live with that.
Yes, yes, yes. So this is a manufacturing plant for cardboard, right? If you look at the length of it, some big manufacturers, this run could be about 300 meters long, right? So it keeps making, or you have to, by the time you walk from there to here, you need a cycle, right? Or you'll do one of those things, you stand and you keep going. It's just the length of the line, right? 300 meters. Now you think about this, and then you'd say, how can I change this? This whole model means what? It means that the manufacturer, the maker, will take cardboard only of certain types, right? And certain volumes, right? So if you ask for a manufacturer, make me one, what's he going to tell you? Yes, yes. I will do 1,000,000, but I cannot do one, right? So essentially, this is what is called a type of cardboard, but you put a honeycomb structure to it. Let me just show you a different. So this lady is actually making cardboard. She's making cardboard with handmade newspaper, from newspaper. So how is she doing it? She's essentially, cardboard is what? Layers of paper on top of each other, right? So you do that. Then she puts glue on the top, because it has holes on the top, it goes evenly applied. And then she opens it and puts this back and so forth. So what these people have done is they've created an entire model of doing customized cardboard, right? Using women in villages who have no other thing to do. So it employs them, right? In very low cost setup. It costs nothing for them to get them going. And they make cardboard for one person. Do you remember the helmet that I showed you earlier? Is made from this cardboard. Fully recycled. Right? Now you'd be thinking, oh, this is cardboard. Let me. do I select in this? Uh-oh. Can you just put that back? Yeah. No, it's the video is there.
Все скутеристы твои.
Here, now they're making, with cardboard, they're making a house. Right? So this is how they make the house. Honeycomb is the way they make the cardboard. Huh? It is. Oh, it's already tested, all those things. Now you think about this. How much do you think it costs to make that house? That is really cheap. So it costs $3,000 for the house. The $3,000 is, yeah, $3,000 you can convert, right? $3,000. It's done in one day. Right?
How many people?
That is made for 8 people in the house. What?
I'm joking about how we can do such things in Russia.
Yeah, there's no joking about it. That is true, right? we have an exaggerated sense of perhaps national pride. Right? But if you look at the number of homeless people or all those things, right? And the way you set these things up, for natural calamities, you still find it funny. If there is a flood and you have to re-site people in the Japanese earthquake, what happens? You have massive number of people going out. Right? So if you start doing this project in scale, because they cannot come back and get a house right away, right? It's made out of cardboard. You think it's funny. It's fireproof. It's right. It is waterproof. Yes. So that's what they say. Probably not snow. I don't think they tested it for snow, right? Because snow creates a load-bearing problem, right? Because snow is heavy. Rain, all those things, no problem. There is another type of helmets. Nice, pricey, right? But you have 5 choices. That's it. Nutcase, on the other hand, right? Maybe I'll show you this. Nutcase is the other one that gets sort of very radical ideas on a helmet. This is like a see-through helmet. You can see a color here. Right? And then they've got some stuff, but you can choose different helmet choices. The same thing you'd think is, oh, it will obviously become more expensive. But the way they manufacture it allows them to have 32. What they need is some manufacturing setup that requires them to have 32 designs. So they figured out that if they do 32 designs, they could have it cheaper than having a few helmets, but a longer line. So every year they come out with 32 designs. And it's cheaper than just having 5. That's the way you manufacture. It's the modularity element of it. So you start asking yourself, why should we necessarily have to have so many to make it cheap? But you don't have to. The housing setup, where she is making the cardboard thing, is virtually zero cost in labor, very low cost labor, right? But it allows you to specialize for one product. They've also got a traditional manufacturing line, which can make out lots if you want. So the way this organization is designed, the flexibility makes it possible. So how do you make scope efficient? Is a thought that you have to start thinking about. How can we make it more efficient? How can I defray cost by batching it? How can I reduce costs? And how do I, because of that, my customers become more loyal? Imagine if I can give you 32 helmets instead of 5, and cheaper than if I had given you 5 helmets. Wouldn't you like me more? Yes. Why? Because I give you so much more choice. What they've not figured out is the Freytag, the bag model, right? The bag model, you can make your own helmets. They're not there yet. But these guys have 32 helmets. The last one, so what was this one? Specialized for scope rather than scale, no? And then the last one is resource bricolage. Have you heard of bricolage before? It's a French word. It's not very common. He's doing a translation. What? There's no Russian translation. It says bricolage again. Yes. Bricolage is if you take resources which are useless for others and make something out of it. Right? So you will throw it away, it's your rubbish. He will take it, get a different idea and use it and make more money out of it than you throwing it away. So this is to Philippe Stark is a very famous cooking utensils manufacturer. Right? He's very designer. That is to make a juicer for this. Right? So you put that lemon, you just do all of these fancy things. This one is made out of a bamboo stick. The same juicer. What do? This is how you cut the bamboo. You do this, you score this, and so forth. Right? Then what you do, you shove this end inside, and then you twist it around, and then you have juice coming out this side. Very simple? Yeah. They now have this in Africa, all over the place. Right? And it's the same principle, but it's so much, and bamboo, wherever in these places in Africa, bamboo is all over the place. Right? So,
Your hand, just push. And you have juice.
how will you make juice out of your hand? No. Right? It's not as efficient, no? Right. It's like orange juice. Yeah. So this one, you coat it, it does it, and then you just squeeze it out. And that's it. Furniture. Obviously, you've got this and this. All this furniture is from completely reclaimed wood. Completely. Rubbish, useless rubbish, wood, they take it and then they do designer furniture. So, this one is a company called Made in Peckham, which is in London, right? But what they've done is they've taken completely useless rubbish, like discarded rafted wood, all those things, and made designer furniture. And they make a lot of money out of it. It's very functional, very good, very elegant in design. And they've designed Kevin Costner's house fully with reclaimed material. So it costs them nothing in terms of input costs, and they have a huge value addition because of design and bringing it together. last one is about making useless useful. Huh? Say. It doesn't look elegant, you think? Yeah. But the designers think it's awesome. Right? Though, if you want to buy one of their furniture, you cannot afford it. It's that expensive. Right? It's all about the design, it's about reclaimed, zero cost for them. Right? Huh? There's no cost of sales. People, because they're already booked, it's all website stuff. They'll come, you contact them, they'll come, they'll see, and then they'll think about it, and then they'll design it for you. Right? But it's all reclaimed. It's all that. So, essentially what they're doing is redefining the meaning of useless. Right? If they're saying, oh no, that doesn't have value, but they're redefining how to make value out of that. So, last one. End of super functionality. What is super functional? Huh? Swiss knife, possibly, but it's also actually quite functional, Swiss knife. The MRI machine costs $3 million each, right, for scanning. It says, it does this, and so forth, right? This one is $15,000, does the same thing for most users. This is for pregnancy and all those things where people carry it around in villages in Africa and get to make sure that the child is okay, healthy, do a scan, an ultrasound scan. Simple. In terms of functionality, not everybody uses that high-end need for it. Right? So what is the grand challenge here in terms of thinking about it is healthcare access. Right? When you say life expectancy, what drives life expectancy? It's the children, a lot of children die at childbirth, right? That's what reduces the average age of people living. When they say the average age is 78 in the UK, it just means that children are not dying earlier, right? When they are born, for example. So that way the averages keep increasing because we can do better job at making sure healthcare delivery happens properly. Right? People are also on the margin living longer, but that happens only if you're born, right? And then born okay. Here's another one. It's a prosthetic arm. Right? What is there in the prosthetic arm? It's very super functional, it can grip, it can do all these things. But setting one of these things up probably will cost you $100,000 or more. This is called the Jaipur foot. Right? This is in India, but it's made out of recycled rubber soles in your shoes. Right? It's very functional. It costs $20 to make and install. Can you?
This girl, she lost her leg in a train accident and she was hardly 4 years old. And now she's from 3 years had her foot. School jati hai? Which standard are you?
Jaipur Foot makes and fits artificial limbs for free. They've developed an innovative technique that uses recycled flip-flop rubber and remolded industrial plumbing pipe. This means the costs are low and the limb is geared towards particular Indian needs. India has an extraordinary number of amputees. There are 25,000 new ones a year through accidents and diseases like polio. The victims are often illiterate and living below the poverty line. Jaipur Foot's program reaches across the nation through its centres and mobile camps.
What's really amazing is amputee comes in and within 2 hours he walks out. So there's no forms that we have to fill when they walk in. There's no registration that they do. They walk in, they fit, or rather they crawl in or they lift it in or whatever, and they will go out walking.
Super functionality, right? Thinking about functionality in minimalist terms. What is required in this case? If you've got 25,000 amputees every year and you want to fit them, India, if you $20 for a leg, right, or foot, that's pretty cheap. So trying to think about who and for what users will you have, and then redesigning that product itself for them. Right? Strip away the nice to haves. Right? It's the essential product that you want, focusing only on the core need. Right? In this case, it's about walking. It's about right? Just providing that itself is that. And essentially, what Jaipur Foot did was it created a niche that isn't really a niche. You know what a niche is? A small market, right? But the market for amputees actually is a huge market. Right? What they've done is created a market for low-cost products in the amputee market. Right? So in India is 25,000. In conflict zones, think about where they've had in Vietnam and all, they still have deaths and so forth because of unexploded mines. You know what mines are, right? The bombs that all over the place. In Iraq, Afghanistan, all conflict zones. If you start thinking amputee costs and have low-cost solutions for it, that creates a completely different market. So you think about this and you come up with these 6 issues here that we've got so far. Grand challenge thinking, rethinking the object, specialize for scope, life cycle cost thinking, resource bricolage, and end of super functionality. Seems very simple to do, isn't it? Why is it a different groups of customers? Possibly so. Right. Low-cost innovation is the only way that you can think about solving some of the big problems. The people who care about prestige, right, don't have that many problems. Right? If the only thing in their mind is about prestige, then the number of problems are very few that they have. Right? The fellow who can't walk, who doesn't have access to water or electricity or any of those, they're not thinking about those issues. So of course it's a different market. It's a completely different market. But those same principles, when they come back to Russia or to the UK, you start thinking about, can we do things much more efficiently in terms of resource use, lower cost, that allows us to reduce the overall cost of doing something. In the UK, for example, for us, we have a big problem in healthcare costs. I'm not sure how it is in Russia. I'm sure that's also the problem. I don't know how good your healthcare is. Is your healthcare a state, everything is done by the state? No? Is it a good healthcare system? No. Do you have private hospitals? Are they better run?
Sometimes.
Depends. Okay.
Actually, the problem with big clients that if you want to get some medical help, you need to wait for a long, long time.
Right.
So, but if you want to have it good and fast, you
And you get it done, right?
But if you have enough money,
You go to London to fix it and come back. That's what they do. Yes. If you have lots of money, you go to London and fix it and come back. But the people who are in London, we all depend on our national health system, NHS.
But I know that many people who live in England, they go to India to make their to fix their problems.
It's also cheaper. If you want to do it private and you want to do it quickly, it's much cheaper to go to India and do it and come back. Right? But in India is also, healthcare is becoming much more expensive than it was before.
In Far East of Russia, people go to China to get
True, right.
healthcare.
Right. And the reason why I bring that up is because a lot of our thinking now is how do we shape developed markets with low-cost innovation. We think of the nano car at $4,000 in Europe. Right? $4,000 allows mobility. It's green, it's efficient, it's all those things. Allows mobility for people who would not have otherwise had mobility. Right? So it changes our fundamental assumptions on either access to healthcare, making it cheaper, access to energy, making it cheaper, and so forth, right? So I think I'm going to stop here. But the idea in today, in just thinking about what we went through, is to think about bigger problems and then see other innovative ways, especially the young people, when you're thinking about problems or solving big problems, you start thinking about how can we figure this out in a very different way from a regular model. Right? Is there a low-cost model, a low-cost way in which we can get the same things done? Housing in Russia, I'm sure you can do a much, much lower cost model than you have now. Right? Value. Right? Or, it just depends on whose needs you're trying to serve. Right? Obviously, my house is very expensive. But I'm not going to go for a $3,000 house because I don't need to. Right? But on the other hand, the people who have the 3,000 don't have a house would rather have a house and for $3,000 than not. So it's completely different markets that we have. But there is a huge market of about 6 billion people in the world that who are below the poverty line. Right? That's a lot of people. So if you start thinking about innovations, you have to start thinking about what inspires you to make lower cost innovations that do this. When I give this to executives, I get huge discussions, right? This whole presentation takes me a day to finish with executives. Why? Because after each session, they will stop me and say, let's try it out in our business. What does it mean? Right? It questions them into saying, how can I change my existing business? So rethinking the object, for example, if you have a group of senior managers, they will go crazy. They'll go crazy for about an hour, 2 hours, because they'll keep arguing and fighting over what the object is. It's a product they've been making for 30 years, right? But they'll still argue about what it means to the customer or what the object is by definition. And then when you ask a manager, a senior manager, to say, what are you trying to sell? And then how will you reconceive it? That's when they get lots of disagreements. I work with lots of big companies. One of them is a defense company. And you start saying, how can you apply low-cost innovation models in defense? Because for them, even though we start thinking about this, it's not as easy. The profit margins in that industry are going to go and go and go and go down. It's not going to improve. The only way they can survive, actually, is through models in which they cut back on costs. Oh, that's a very good question. Now, how will you do services in a very different way? It's the same principles would apply. Yeah, it is the same. The same principle is the same. Let's think of services that you would do. Let's think of going to the hospital. the healthcare bit, right? So what do you actually want to find out when you go to the hospital? Any of you know what is Second Life? Have you done that? Right? You create virtual avatars for yourself, right? Have you tried that? Right. So, no, yes, you have? No? Okay. Have you seen the movie Avatar? Yeah, it's not like that movie. No. The Second Life is a concept where it's like an online community where you create your own image in that, and then you introduce your image or an avatar into this community, right? And so it's almost like living in it, but doing that. Now, what we are experimenting with is in innovation in the Second Life model for problems that reduces people coming to the emergency center, right? Things like fever, what are you diagnosed with? Simple problems that people still come to the hospital. Instead, they can go through that process, and then the prescription will get called into the automatically into the pharmacy, and they'll go pick up the medicine from the pharmacy without even coming to the hospital. Think of it as low cost. It's virtually zero. Right? It reduces our crowding in our emergency sites. Right? There is no waiting. If you go to an emergency, it truly is an emergency. Right? So you can reduce all of these things. A lot of people go to the hospital because it's repeat. I need a prescription filled. I have to go see the doctor every 3 months anyways. The older you get, the more you feel that you need to go to the hospital just because you need to see the doctor. Right?
But sometimes, especially younger people, they just all the medicine
For fun.
no, not for fun, to discuss something, just to talk
That's
with
what I say,
somebody.
for fun.
Yes. So think of it as in the Second Life model, you would still talk with people. Right? It's not just filling out your prescription. Your interaction experience is very different. And it'll be used by young people now who become older later. Right? Because they're more used to that concept. The older people now haven't used internet. Right? So this is not a market for them. But you're introducing it now that people will get culturally used to not going to the hospital for small things. Right? Because people are very busy in doing it. So it's the same principles of service design that applies to this as well. Anything else? What did you get out of today? What did you get out of today's lecture?
I think that some innovation is not based on some technical or some or science. They based on some social problem.
Excellent, right? And many of our examples today highlight that, right? The Jaipur foot, for example. There's no technology in it. It's used rubber slippers, right? That they're redoing it, recasting it. It's a simple rod, nothing else. Used retrofitted plumbing. Plumbing that people throw away, they're cutting it up and then reusing it. Right? It's a social issue, and then getting people accustomed to it. You would think about you laugh because it's a cardboard house, right? Because in our mind, we don't use cardboard to live in, even though homeless people do, right? But that cardboard, the product, the strength of it is all the same in completely different use. But if I can assemble a house for 8 people in one day for $3,000, and it's going to be semi-permanent as a house, that's fantastic. Right? There's not much technology there. It's about how it is deployed. Right? The low-cost innovation is not just about making technology work for you in a cheaper way. It's about figuring out the applications in a very different way. It's about rethinking the object. It's about all these other issues that go with it.
What about telecom industry?
Huh?
What about telecom industry?
Telecom industry. What about it?
What about the source of voice?
Yeah. Huh?
How to rethinking those
How we can do that things in other way, yes?
For the entire industry?
for huge companies
Mm-hmm.
such as
Vodafone, right? Yeah. So those guys already operate in a super low cost manner, right? It's just that what they're charging us is based on I'll give you one example. 95 or 96, right? When I was in my PhD program and I just finished, one of the people I was talking to was the CEO of Bell Atlantic in the US. It's like one of AT&T's spin-offs, Bell Atlantic. So he was saying that the cost to make a telephone call is 1/8 of 1 penny. You've got correct, right? So that assumes the same technology, right? You're assuming the same technology and then saying, I have to do a low cost on the same technology. It won't work that way. You have to reconceive how you think of that network itself. Now people are talking about wireless networks where electricity will pass through, right? So the technology that they're working on is that you can have energy go from one place to the other, electricity go from one place to the other in a wireless form. So what will happen then is that you will have no wiring in a house. That's pretty cool, right? It costs a lot, and the world's supply of copper, I think 70% is owned by China anyways, right? And that's how they consume. So if you make it wireless, then it creates a completely different perception of what building a network is. You can't take an existing technology and then you can make it a little bit cheaper, yes, because maybe you make it differently, but you have to reconceive what that network is. Otherwise your cost basis is not going to be a low cost innovation. The innovation is not just in the manufacturing of it, it is on conceiving the entire system. It's the entire system, yeah.
Not only telecom industry, but also for
Many industries, right? It's you will. So one of the not yesterday, day before, I moderated a panel at Imperial. Right? One of the panelists was the former head of BP, right? And she was responsible for alternative energies and renewable energy within BP. And when she was talking about BP as a company, she says, if you have to reconsider the system, it's very difficult being within the system and trying to reconsider it. So whatever renewable energy could do, as a large company BP could do, the exploration and production function that they have always kills it, because it's the dominant mentality of how we provide energy today. And that's going to be okay for another 40, 50 years. That's fine. So renewable energy as an entity suffers because it cannot reconceive the system within an existing system.
I see, but there is no need to modify all systems because you have resources. Your
Yes, and that's why people won't reconceive the system, right?
No, I mean, you just create a new system within the current system, yeah? And your old system is still efficient.
Yes.
And your new system is also will be efficient in some less.
True. In principle, it'll work, but in practice, it won't, because there is no incentive. If my system is working now, there is no incentive for me to invest billions of dollars in creating a new system. Again, strategic is about 40, 50 years. No? So when we have a baby, we're thinking of a baby today, tomorrow. Right? We don't always think, the baby's retirement is in 60 years, do we? No. We think about it now. That's the similar. So whatever I do for my children, I think of it now. I can think of it a bit strategically, saying, okay, over the next 3 years, they will finish college, for example, right? But I'm not going to think of their retirement. It's their bloody problem. That's how executives work as well. They're thinking about performance for this year, next year, not about performance 50 years from now.
Yeah, but it's the problem of that has also.
That's one way of saying it. I don't necessarily agree, but yes. Right? Good. On that note, thank you very much. It was fun. Yeah. Very different, or different from what you've had earlier as lectures.
It's just
Good. Excellent. All right. Thank you very much, folks. Have a lovely evening. Partying this evening? No? Oh, studying all the time. Yeah. That's what my students used to tell me. Excellent. Thank you.